My name's Peter Jecks, and we're a plant hire and silt pumping contractor. The project we're working on here is an Environment Agency project. We're working on part of that for BAM Nuttall, who are the framework contractor, and we're here to remove silt from this body of water at the back here where the houses are.
The process that we operate for desilting is a very simple process. It's a traditional dredging process at the start, which we use an excavator with an extended arm in order to dredge the silts out at the bottom of the river. That is then thrown round by the digger into our macerator unit, which chops up the weed, removes any stone, and turns the silt into a high concentrate paste. From the paste, the pumping unit then pumps the solid material, which it can pump up to an 80% solid mass, up to approximately 800 metres. This is then pumped from the barge across the riverbank in a 4-inch pipeline to the lagoon and spread on the land. The unique thing about this process is it uses high pressure air, it doesn't use high volumes of water, and it is relatively mess-free.
Well, our system differs. The transportation is done by air. So this means basically, instead of the water as a catalyst to move the material, which i.e. you might need 2 tons of water to move a ton of silt, usually the percentage is around about 80% water, 20% silt. In our situation, we can move anywhere between 70 to 80% solids, and all we do is add a little bit of water to it to create, to make it a little better for it to go down the pipe, less friction, and keep the pipes cool. Because obviously when you generate compressed air, you generate heat. So basically, in itself, it creates friction. What would normally happen is a digger would dig it out, put it into a dumper, and then move it to onshore. Now the problem with that is that sometimes that means the river's then got to be cut off, so that means that the water then will have to be diverted to another river. This could create a hazard such as if the river goes into flood, and also it's not very good for the bottom of the river. When you run dump trucks and tracked vehicles in the bottom of the river, you create an area, what we call a crossover area, where the material at the bottom then blends with the silt, and then you create more silt, and you also ruin the bottom of the whether it be lake or river.
River silting is quite common, especially where there's any structure within the river, such as the weir structure here, which slows down the water flow. That then allows the silts to deposit out of the water and settle. This is something that happens all over the country and in every river and water course. Once we've finished the silting and the silts are pumped into the lagoon, the silts are left to dry. Now this could be a period of 3 to 6 months depending on the prevailing weather conditions within the area we're working. Ideally in the United Kingdom we call it a season, which is spring to summer. Once dry, normally they're cultivated or para-harrowed through and then just dressed back into the topsoil and reseeded.
This lagoon here has been created basically for what would normally be a normal pumping system. I think the Environment Agency thought when they came this was going to be full of water and there was going to be overflowing everywhere, and because as you can see all we've got in there is a silt, and this is our speciality. This won't be needed, not as anywhere near as large as it is, and when we have completed the task of moving the silt, it will then be blended with the soil that's around the perimeter and then seeded, and then obviously the residents can have the field back. But at the moment, as you can see, there's hardly any water in there, and already it's starting to crust off, and the water's starting to evaporate.
This particular scheme, being in close proximity to houses and residents, is a little bit different to some of the works we do. For this particular scheme, we have enlisted the help of the local residents group, and we have set some ground rules. The first being that we don't actually work before 9 AM, give people a chance to get up, go to school, go to work, etc, etc. We won't work after 5 PM, so we give people peace in the evening, and we don't work at weekends. That's our attempt to try and alleviate some of the problems of noise and excessive machinery movement to the general public, so everybody can work together and we can have a happy environment. With regard to this scheme and wildlife, this system is relatively wildlife and environmentally friendly. Fish within the water, because of the slow nature of moving the silt out, tend to migrate away from the area because of the vibration and the noise. We do pick the odd fish or the odd eel out of the river, and obviously one of the things that our operators look for is to see if anything's within the bucket before it goes into the macerator, so we can pull that out. Ducks, geese, swans and other wildlife tend to sort of take not too much notice to the machinery. All the engines we use are silent packs. Unfortunately, the pump is slightly noisy, but that's just air. We direct the pump exhausts back into the water to deaden the sound. So we try to minimise the environmental impact at all times.
The great thing with this type of system that we're working here today is that we can go from this size, which is a commercial operation, right down to a garden sized pond, and very many people ring me and say, oh Mr. Jex, could you come and have a look at our small pond? It's only 10 metres by 5 metres, and we're just as happy to go out and look at the project. On the bigger projects we do ask that we survey it, and that gives us an idea as the contractor how much material we've got to pump, and for the customer on what they're going to pay for, what they're going to get. They get a written report. Some people think, oh well, it's it's going to cost to do this, but in the long run it can either prove where the silt is and where it isn't, cuts the time down for us as a contractor, which means we can then be not as expensive because we're not guessing on the material in there. So as far as I can see, there's a service we offer now, surveying lakes and ponds, as I said, anywhere from a commercial job right down to a small job, and even to a point that later on this year we'll be offering a hire out service, where a specialist service where we will be sending out the equipment with an operator to operate it, and where then some people who have got manpower and don't want to pay for a full-blown installation can do part of the job themselves. We do also run a box dredging system. It's very expensive, but what it does, we create a coffered-ham dredging system. We sink the box into the silt. We can take out any swan mussels, so if there are any environmental issues with the bottom of the lake, bottom of the river, we can then go into the bottom and we can put a gauze over, and we can take out swan mussels, for example, or any wildlife that gets in, fish, take them out and then suck out the silt. So we can be as environmentally friendly as possible as required. Some lakes have a lot of swan mussels in, and the owners like the idea of being able to put them out. It's expensive, but everything's achievable. On the pumping side, we feel that we're at the forefront. We are #1 alternative dredging company in the UK and in Europe. We've been asked to do work in Europe and all over the world now. We're offering a system that no one else can.